Hi guys, welcome to today's lecture. So today I'll be discussing on API management for data science. See guys, in future all and everything you would have to use an API only, because the thing is that nowadays every company is using LLMs, and the way you use LLMs is by API only. So guys, this is very common and very basic thing, okay? But I have seen that most of you are from non-tech background and might not have great understanding of what APIs are and how are they actually made and created. So today I have decided to give a full lecture on API management specifically for data science and AI based workloads. Okay, so we'll start. So let's just move to the next slide. So let's just go to slideshow. Let's just play from current slide. So see guys, the thing that is we're going to be discussing about is what is an API. Okay, so see guys, APIs are bridges. So I'll be telling you why it's a bridge. So consider that you have two blocks. Okay, one block is client, another block is server. So what essentially happens is a client is something that sends request to the server, and server is something that responds. So this is very common: request, response. So where does it give a request? It gives request to the API endpoint. So I'll be showing you a lot of examples today so that you can completely understand this thing, that how APIs are created, how do we call an API, and how do we get a response. Okay, this is fine, this is fine. Now the next thing that you need to understand is some example. So let me give you one quick example. Okay, so have you ever seen that how are you able to book tickets on Book My Show of PVR, right? PVR is a completely different entity. Book My Show is a completely different entity. This tech stack is something else. PVR's tech stack is something else. But how do these systems intercommunicate? They communicate with the help of API. Okay, and I hope you would know that API stands for Application Programming Interface. Okay, essentially these are the systems, or basically they act as bridge in which two heterogeneous systems can communicate. I think this is okay. Now let's move to the next slide. Okay, so the slide is not moving. Let me escape. Okay, yeah. So see guys, let's just go hands on straight away. Let me just show you some basic demos and everything. So guys, I have made a lot of projects, right? So you would have seen how do I call basic API. So let's just see any project. Let's just see my industry ready AI project. Let's just go to command prompt and let's just try to open it. So guys, a detailed video regarding how this RAG based chatbot was made. This video is just for making you understand how do we call an API. So see guys, it's simple. Just get the environment API key from Gemini, set this up, and then you just need to have an invoke this loop, set then LLM, and then all you need is an invoke or method that you would be calling in. So see, get response from chain. See, this is how we are calling the API. I have created a chain and for so, but you don't need to worry about this and all, but mainly you're just calling the simple API. Let me see if I have a simpler example. So I think this is a simple example. This might not have a chain thing. So see guys, all you need to do is create a .env file and then just import your thing. Okay, that is just import the library. So here I think I'm using Claude's model. So all I'm doing is I'm importing this class chat anthropic, and this is okay. So essentially under community or under, see, this is the module, okay, LangChain anthropic, that is okay, right? So I'll show you how have we defined the API thing. So all you need to do is you need to just define an LLM and then you need to call it. That is it guys. And guys, one thing is there that calling an API is very easy. Obviously we'll see a lot of examples, but specifically for LLMs, let's say you wish to call the Gemini API. So let's just go to Gemini docs. So guys, see, they have this API reference documentation. So one thing is very important, guys. Whenever you're dealing with APIs, every API would have some sort of documentation. So this is the place where you need to get started. Okay. So the thing is that, see, all you need to do is, let me just see if we can get it like this. Yeah. So the thing is, all you need to do is, you need to install the library, then you need to get the API key, then you need to configure the API key, and then you need to call it. That's it, guys. This is how simple calling an API is. So there are more elements to it as well, but relatively for very simple use cases, you will just do this much. Okay, you will just call an API. So see, this is how you call an API. So essentially I have a lot of examples, so we'll see it step by step so that you can also understand. But yeah, you understand, right? You can just see any documentation and get the code and call the API. Okay, so see guys, what usually happens is that, for the time being, let's just take any platform which is used to create APIs, right? So I'll be talking about Flask. So I'll have a dedicated playlist for Flask, but just to start with, okay, just to start with, let's say I have an engine. Now I'll be showing you how do we create APIs. Okay, we'll go through code line by line. This is not the code that you would do or someone else would do. This is just an example of how APIs work. Let's say you have a database. Okay, now the database has 3 books. Okay, their title is there, their author is there, and their year is there. Now I have created an helper function that will help me find book by ID. I think this is okay. And now see guys, this is the main thing of today's lecture, that the moment you call this route, okay, where will this run? This will run in my local host. So the moment I call localhost book, so I'm calling this API. Okay, this is how you create an API. So my client will send a request to this server. Okay, so my Flask server will run. Where it will run? It will run on my local host. My client will send a request to this Flask server, and then this Flask server will give it a response. This type of mechanism I wanted to show you. I hope you are getting it right. This, I'll just walk you through again that what we are doing. Flask is my backend. Okay, Flask is my server. So I'll make sure my Flask server is up and running in localhost. Then my client will call an API from my Flask server, and then it will communicate in that way. Okay guys, I hope you are able to understand. So this is the code which essentially states that, hey, if you would route it to @books, if you will call this API, it will return JSONify book. So let's just do it. So see guys, there are multiple ways to do it. One is you use Python's request library, and another one is you use Postman. I'll be showing you both of them. So first of all, what we need to do is, first I'll show you using Postman. Okay, so guys, what is Postman? Some of you might be hearing it for the first time. So see guys, Postman is a popular API development and testing tools used by developers to design, test and monitor API. So yeah guys, if you are a data scientist, you might use this very frequently if your company works in the space of designing RESTful API. So let's say you have trained a model, okay, then you deploy it as an API. How do you deploy it as an API? Using Flask. Okay guys, you can do it using Fast API as well, but for this demo I have chosen Flask. Okay, and then people in your company, any team, can communicate or get access to this via an API. Okay, this is how API works. So I have shown you like for instance that we have created one endpoint. Okay, still giving you again a quick walkthrough because some of you might be a little new. See guys, it's simple. Flask is what? Flask is our backend. Okay, and now the client will interact with the backend. Okay, how? It will send a request. What will the backend do? The backend will give a response, but for this the backend should also run somewhere, right? Backend cannot just without running give response. So the first thing that we'll be doing is running our backend. So how do we run our backend? So it's simple to run our backend. All we need to write this command is py app.py. Okay, now our serving Flask app is on. So our backend server, this is essentially stating that our backend server is up. Okay. Now what we need is we need to make an API call to our backend server and get the response. So as I said that there are two ways to do it. One is that you do it via request module. Okay, let me just I don't need any other features for the time being. Let me just comment the rest of the code. So I'll be showing you. So let's just create another terminal. How do we create another terminal? Go to here, and I think if you go to here, see, this is another terminal. This is one terminal on which Flask is running, and this is another terminal. So let me call py call.py. See guys, let me still recall it once. So see guys, how I was able to get the book details, why I was able to get the book details. See this code. This is giving me the book details which are in app.py. How? Because guys, these systems are communicating. This is my backend Flask server which is up and running, and this is my front end or any other system which is going to call this API. Guys, it's very simple. Just try to understand. We need to create an endpoint, right? And to create an endpoint, I'm using Flask. So essentially I have created an endpoint using Flask. So my client is sending a request to give me all the books in the dataset at the rate books. See, this is how it's making a request. Okay, then obviously there are more things, like this is just a demo. You create an API credential as well, so that anyone who is making request will have an API credential. So hence therefore they can make requests. So guys, any organization would have API and they would have API credentials. So anyone in the organization, if they want to use that API, let's say you're a book selling organization and people want to see the list of books you have in your glossary, so they'll call this API. So guys, this is very simple, right? API is not a difficult topic specifically for data scientists, so it's okay. You can learn whatever skill you need. And also guys, these days you have ChatGPT and other platforms, so just leveraging them won't be very difficult as well. So I think guys, this much is okay. But now let's just try to call the same. See, even I can call it via Postman. So see guys, it's okay. I'm just giving you a demo. If you don't know Postman, that's okay. But probably in your company you might have a tool called Postman, which as I said is used to create APIs, maintain APIs, test APIs. Here we are just testing the API, right? I'm calling it, and in this format I'm getting an result, right? So guys, this was just a demo to show you how usually client and server interacts. This is it guys. If you understand this, rest all you can take up on the fly. Let's say someone is asking you, hey, can you deploy a ML model as an API in your organization? You can do it, right? I'll give you a demo of how to do that as well. But the main thing is this only, how client and server communication is happening. Okay, now this is done. Now let's just specifically talk in terms of data science workloads. Okay, since this channel is more dedicated towards data science workload. But guys, yeah, this is okay. One thing I want to tell you is never restrict your knowledge to data science, and because these concepts are generic concepts, right? APIs are same for any company. Okay, it's not like you will have different companies and stuff. So see guys, the main thing is that how do we use it for data science based workloads? See here, what I have done is I have trained a model. I have trained a model and dumped it as a pickle file. Okay, now I have dumped it as a pickle file, and now here I am creating a route. What is creating a route means I have created an API endpoint. So now anyone which who can call this API endpoint and can get predict. See here I am giving the prediction, and there I can pass the prediction. Okay, I have that just done with the help of UI, but that is not a major issue. The main thing that you need to understand is that someone would write some HTML, CSS or JavaScript code, and essentially they'll be calling this endpoint, guys. They'll be calling this endpoint. How do we call an endpoint? By this methods. Okay, so there are few methods like get method, post method and delete method. Okay, for the time being these three are okay. So usually what happens is get method. So once your client is sending data to server via get method, so the data gets exposed in the URL. If the data doesn't get exposed in the URL, then that's post method, and delete is used to delete some stuff. So see guys, here this is how you use it. Okay, this is how you use it. If you have any doubts, you can DM me as well. But this type of workflow on API management I wanted to show you. Now the next thing I want to show you guys is a quick call to API documentation as well. So guys, there is something known as Swagger. So why I'm telling you this Swagger UI, let me run this py call 1.py. So see guys, I'm just giving you a quick glimpse of how to do things. It's not that you will know everything, you would know everything. Okay, that's okay. So this is not running. That's probably okay. This is not running. So either this must have some other route, base route. So see guys, let's just try to see this route once. Okay, so it's saying this URL is not found. Let's just try to stop this. Guys, this URL for some reason is not working. Let's just try to see why it's not working. Hope my Flask server is running okay. And get swagger call.py. So if I redo it, py call 1.py. Swagger. So guys, for some reason this doesn't seem to work. Let me try to debug it once. Okay, I'll pause the video. Let me just allow me 2 minutes. I'll debug this. Yeah guys, sorry, there was some minor issue only. It's just that the Flask server was already running, so on top of that only we ran, so some issue happened. But see, it must have got resolved in just couple of 2-3 minutes. You can see the time. So guys, see, if I'll show you, this is how API documentation looks like. See, you can open it, get list all the books. Okay, so see, if you'll go down, you can try this out. Okay, see, this is how API documentation looks like. Just see it guys, this is get method. So why I'm telling you all this now, I'll give you a end glimpse of our lecture, which is very important. See guys, whenever you have a project and someone tells you to do something with API, so the first thing that you would understand is what is an API. Okay, so what is an API? API is a bridge that helps you communicate between two heterogeneous systems. So usually the client and server interact with the help of API. Okay, so client sends request, server gives response. Now the request is sent by some HTTP protocols. Okay, it's okay if you don't understand these fancy terms, that is okay. So there are, like, you can send request via get method, you can send request via post method. So what is the difference between these two? The difference between these two is that in get request, the URL contains the data which the client is sending to the server, and in post request the URL doesn't contain the data that the client is sending to the server. Okay sir, now the next thing is you need to create an API. How you can create an API? You can create using Flask. So all you need to do is just create a decorator app.route and give whatever URL you want to have, define whatever method you want to have, and write your logic over here. Like, so the thing is, in that example you must have seen how we did it, right? So what we had is someone created an API for us that will list all the books, and we called it. How did we call it? We called it using Python's request module. We can do it via that as well, and we can call it using Postman as well. Okay, so any tool, any tech stack you can use. Now the thing is, in the last I'm showing you some Swagger. Okay, what is Swagger? So see guys, this Swagger is nothing. This is used to create API documentation. So you must know all these terms, guys. You as a data scientist might not actually go in very depth of these concepts, but you need to understand these things, guys, because these are very important. That how do you create API documentations, and as I showed you in the demo as well, right, how here what we did is that we trained an ML model. Let me just show you where it is. Yeah, so what we did is we trained a ML model. Okay, then we dumped it as a pickle file. Okay, from sklearn only you can do that, dump it as a pickle file. And then what you are doing is you are hosting your model as an API. So now anyone in the organization, anyone in the world can use this API, right? Obviously right now it's not deployed to the cloud, but you can understand in one sense that anyone in your organization, in your network, if your IT team has configured that, they can call this API and use this model. So guys, this is it. This is all you need to know. So again, documentation is essential. So as I said that there is something known as Swagger UI. I showed you one demo as well. So guys, see, if you don't understand a lot of this code and all, you can just go through this code, because even I haven't written this code. I have also copied it from the official documentation only. So whenever you get any task, guys, specifically in terms of API, don't worry about the code as such. Okay, coding will be simple. The only thing that you need to figure out is how to read the documentation effectively. Okay, and how to just get the API key. That's it, guys. Rest mostly you can figure out. And guys, once you read the documentation clearly, right, you can understand a lot of hidden things as well. I'll give you an example. Wait. Let's say I'm using Anthropic's API. Okay, Anthropic API, and I'll say documentation. So I'm using their documentation. Now see guys, please try to read all these things, is you will understand. If you try to see that this is the documentation, see it has a prompt library as well, release notes as well, developer newsletter as well. So why I wanted to show you, because API documentations are usually nice. Some might have bad as well, but that's okay. Now see guys, you can see examples as well. Now the thing I wanted to show you is that once you go in depth, you will find few features in some APIs which are nice. For example, this feature, prompt caching beta. So why I'm telling you this is, guys, see, you have to read the documentation thoroughly. Then some use cases you will understand, like this prompt caching beta. Now you would read what prompt caching is. And essentially prompt caching is a mechanism wherein what you can do is that you can cache in. Okay, so there is something known as cache memory. So what you can do is you can store the system message or some instructions in the cache memory only, and let's say a user pinged a question and it goes into the cache memory, and next time any user comes and pings the same question, it will redirect it the response from the cache memory rather than the API call. So this will help you save up cost. Why I'm telling you this, why I know this, because I have read Anthropic's API documentation. So guys, see, whenever you are provided with a task, read a documentation well, then try to create an API. How do you create an API? Using Flask or Fast API. Okay, then just guys do testing. Once the testing is going good, just try to create a documentation. How do you create a documentation of API? Using Swagger UI. Now you're telling that we don't know how to use Swagger UI. Even I don't know how to use it, but the thing is you can read their documentation, and guys, you can just use any of the LLMs. These tasks LLMs can do easily. Okay, once your API code is complete, just ask it to create documentation code based on Swagger. It will be able to do it. So guys, this was an end-to-end API introduction where I explained you how client and server architecture works, how to use request, how to use Postman, how to read API documentations well, how to create API documentation. So guys, this much knowledge is enough. And guys, just be careful while dealing with APIs. Okay, So usually to hit an API, you generate a secret. All that can be done in Flask as well. But yeah, the main thing is that just be a little careful. Don't try to leak your secrets and secrets here and there. Just try to follow the best practices. Okay guys, thank you. And guys, please subscribe to my YouTube channel.